the exercise that they would have liked to put their foot on the pedal on the way home, but a win is a win, and they're hard to come by in the NFL. The Eagles having no such issue. 4-0 to start on the heels of a Super Bowl. Back in studio, Joe Musso alongside Lige Douzable. Deuce, this is a team that, again, we talk about standard. We hold to a high one in Philadelphia. They get a win over a team that usually presents some sort of issues. What's your major takeaway from this latest victory?
I love how the secondary for the Eagles, when you talk about Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, how they tackled in space. They were so physical in this game, especially to start off that first half. The Bucs could not move the ball anywhere up and down the field. So kudos to those guys as well. And you talked about it, the offense, right, being a little bit more inventive. Kevin Petula, that was the question going into this season, Moose. Like, he had never called plays before, and we saw him be extra conservative the first couple of weeks. By script last week, they had to open up the offense because they had a massive lead they had to try to come back and win. In this game, you saw a little bit more wrinkles. You saw the shovel passes to Dallas Goedert. And with Jalen Hurts, he didn't have, crazy, outrageous numbers, but efficient with the football, throwing it where he needs to throw. Todd Bowles likes to blitz. He knew exactly where to go on third down, and man coverage got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith going. So I love the balance on offense, and we're starting to see Kevin Petula getting rhythm, calling plays for his playmakers.
Let's stay on the topic of numbers, because Saquon Barkley's this season have been subdued relative to the 2,000-plus that we saw a season ago. 19 touches, or totes, for 43 yards on the ground specifically, a touchdown in this one. We saw a wrinkle off of the tush push. I want your thoughts there on some inventive play calling, but also in the slow start, for lack of a better term, for Saquon this season.
I think a little bit has to do with how much he carried the ball last year. I think they're trying to take some carries off of him because the end goal is Super Bowl. You want the Saquon you saw throughout the playoffs. People tend to forget. He had a chance to get the record, but they sat him week 18. But I think that boded well for him in regards to how well he played in that stretch run throughout the playoffs. So if you're looking at this and you're Nick Sirianni, you're like, we got to take some carries off of Saquon early, right? We want him to build back up like he did last year. That way, when we need to lean on him throughout the playoffs, we can do that.
22 of 40 for 289 and 2 touchdowns for Baker Mayfield. Going to want to be further north of 50% completion. But my eyes go to the defensive side of the ball with this Buccaneers team. Where are their biggest inefficiencies right now? I know it's always going to be a tall task to slow down an offense that has as many options as the Eagles do, but where did they come up short in your eyes?
I think there was a combination, right? And crucial situations, situational football on third down, they struggled to get off the field at times. Todd Bowles sent some pressure, man coverage on the outside. We saw Jalen Hurts continuously be able to move the ball down the field. So when you look at it, like, box score wise, just like they didn't give up a ton of yards, but it's those situational football scenarios where you have to be able to get off the field and win. And then special teams. We talked about it earlier, right, Moose? Special teams is special for a reason. If you allow a team to score in a third phase, it's really hard to overcome that.
All right, back on the Eagles here for a moment, because if you're trying to dangle a carrot out in front of yourself, staying motivated, they're not a team that, from all that I saw preseason and what we've seen early in this season, that lacks any such carrot out in front of them. But they check a box here because this is a Tampa Bay team that I know Eagles fans sort of look at a little differently in the challenges they've presented before. How do you continue to do that if you are a team that executes at a championship level to find that new ghost to chase?
To me, it's the leaders in your locker room. And I think Jalen Hurts coming into this season talked about it, right? We're not even thinking about last year's Super Bowl. Nick Sirianni, whether he was telling the truth or not, Moose said, we're not going to watch when they put the banner out there opening week, right? We're on to this year. We want to win this year's Super Bowl. We're not thinking about last year. So I think when you look at the leadership in that locker room, when you have Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and Lane Johnson, who is banged up right now, those guys have played at the highest of levels, and they know what it takes to get to another Super Bowl. So they're not thinking about what happened last year. They're focused on being the best version of this Eagles team to win another Super Bowl.
4 for 4 in attacking that task. Another win here on the road against the Tampa Bay Bucs. More to come on CBS Sports HQ. Taking a look at Jalen Hurts' past 18 games, started and finished a perfect 18-0. How's 3,200? About 800 on the ground.
2 for 1. So. Bart, I thought you made an interesting point earlier that Micah Parsons will try and make this like any other game, but you've lived this. There's just no way to do that.
It's emotional. That was a place he thought he was going to be drafted by and be one of those one guys that starved the organization, lead with the organization. He did everything that he was supposed to on the field, and they decided to go off. So you can't not take that personal. And I don't know about anybody else, but I always wanted to beat my friends worse than I wanted to beat anybody else, because I knew that we knew common people and we was going to see each other in the streets and we was going to have a conversation about it.
So you think this isn't a particularly important game for him, Mike?
Greedy, from a team building standpoint, we use the term force multiplier a lot. This is an infomercial of why having a pass rusher is so important. The back end of Dallas is just splintering. Look, Deron Bland's been hurt, but Trayvon Diggs, Donovan Wilson, on and on and on. Greedy, they cannot hold up and they can't get pressure. So when you're trying to construct a team, you're saying, well, what can we do? And Micah Parsons really just made up for so many vulnerabilities. They're all being exposed. This is really worst case scenario for the Cowboys.
I'm trying to find ways that the Cowboys can make this a game. And I keep coming to the name George Pickens. They're playing without CeeDee Lamb. The Cowboys are playing without the best player remaining on their team. And Jerry was talking about IR, so he's going to be gone a while. This is an opportunity, once, and maybe his last, for George Pickens to prove he belongs where he looks like his talent should put him.
And Greeny, I'm going to use the word trust. Can the Dallas Cowboys, his teammates, can Brian Schottenheimer, as an offensive-minded head coach, can you trust George Pickens to be that number one? CeeDee Lamb is not mysteriously walking through the door and coming out there on that football field. He had a drop last week that led to an interception. Can they trust you to block in the run game? Can they trust you to win one-on-one and do it consistently over and over and over again? But here's the kicker about the Dallas Cowboys. If they want an opportunity to win this game, it's going to be about running the football. Right now, you look at the Dallas Cowboys, they're 11th right now in the NFL rushing the football. Javonte Williams, thanks to the himbo, 5.3 yards per carry, 14 rushing touchdowns. You kind of got to play keep away because you know your defense can't stop anybody.
Detroit couldn't run the football against them. Washington couldn't run the football against them. The Browns had 3 points.
Them being Green Bay, to be clear.
Yeah, we're underestimating how good this Green Bay defense is, that we're saying, well, George Pickens got to step. Amon-Ra couldn't do anything against them, and McLaurin couldn't do anything against them. So, to me, what's the term? Schadenfreude? Like, that's what this feels like. Everything that's going wrong for the Cowboys, and if you're a Cowboys hater, it's going to be on full display on national TV. And I know NBC isn't just sending the Sunday night crew. They're sending their fantasy show. They're sending everybody there. This feels like it's got a blowout in the making, and I, in my head, cannot find a way that Dallas avoids that from happening.
To Jerry's credit, they only surrendered 3.7 yards per carry, so they are stopping the run.
Yes, well, that's because no one will be dumb enough to run the ball against them. The wide receivers are running so open, I feel like I could throw it to them. I say this, because it's no secret. I like the Cowboys being good. It's good I'm in the interesting business, and people are interested in them. I'm very worried about them falling out of this thing completely without Schadenfreude, by the way.
That's a good word. There it is.
Pleasure derived from another person.
That's what I'm bringing to get up.
The other variable is this, Greedy. When you're in the Dallas Cowboy offensive huddle, you're expecting we got to be perfect. Like, go back to that Bear game last week. As soon as they punted once the game was over, and if you're Dak Prescott and you're trying to get George Pickens going, it's a really terrible feeling.
Things happen in the NFL all the time. And we make these graphics all the time. And I always say, is everybody picking one side? Because if they are, I go the other way. The league is built on, and there we go. So if the league is built on things you don't expect to happen happening, and that's why this game is going to be closer. It's a 6.5-point spread. Am I telling you the Cowboys are going to win? No. Am I telling you if I was going to play this game, I would take the points? I would, because weird things happen, and this is the perfect spot for that.
The recent history doesn't help Dallas either, though. And Adam Schefter was great all week on this point. The last 6 times these two teams played in Dallas, Green Bay has won, and there's been much better Cowboys teams going up against those Packers teams. I don't see it, and yet, to your point, I've been covering this way too long for this not to be an obvious Dallas upset.
So surprising that you would, not pick the Dallas Cowboys, but you picked the Giants against the best team in the AFC. Yeah, interesting. Make it make sense.
I don't understand. Bart with the non sequitur. So the point that I'm making.
was that a sugar program?
Are you worried that the Cowboys fall out of this thing completely? I mean, you get blown out in this game. Now you're 1-3. I think there's cause for concern.
But I don't think the Commanders are as good as we anticipated. And I think that offensively, when they get CeeDee Lamb back, if Pickens can just kind of pick up the slack and they can kind of stay afloat a little bit, I think offensively they'll be able to try and win games like the Bengals tried to win before Joe Burrow got.
Greeny, when you're building a team in September and you're saying, where's hope coming? We talked a lot about Kansas City getting better, Baltimore with Van Noy coming back, and, Matt Abuike. If you're the Dallas Cowboys on defense, How are you getting better? Where is help coming from? And to me, that's a very dire feeling where you feel hopeless. I mean,
Well, Overshaw's coming back eventually.
Well,
right?
to your point, Mike T.
Super quick.
The O-line of the Green Bay Packers, they weren't great last week versus the Cleveland Browns,
they
right?
got blown up.
They have to step up big in this matchup too.
We'll see what winds up happening. Again, just weird things happen. That's probably the only reason to like Dallas here at all. First Take continues as they roll on. They're looking at Sunday night. And those two men, Micah and Jerry Jones, how do the Cowboys pull the upset? Southern Steve.